This is the beginning of class 14 of our 40-week Quran believer class. We're opening it with Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata mustaqim. Sirata ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. I will now turn it over to our two teachers, Aisha and Farouk. Thank you.
Before we do that, we've already taken a bit of time. Okay, we'll just let Farouk, Aisha go for it. I'll just send y'all it's pretty long, so I don't think y'all are going to read it, but it was just a good overview of today's topic, but I will hand it off to Farouk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Salamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And welcome to Q40, week 14, where we will be exploring the calls made to those who have been convinced or those who have believed in Quranic language, alladhina amanu. Before that, I'd like to introduce the concept behind this study. And the concept behind this study is that of faith or belief or conviction. In Arabic or in Quranic language, it's called iman. This is a very common word in Islamic parlance. Although in Islamic parlance, it's more of a confessional thing. You have 6 pillars of iman. Iman, belief in Allah, the last day, the angels, the books, the messengers, and predestination, apparently. So the Quran does have 5 out of 6 of these elements. Predestination is not there. But it also proposes a system whereby we can become true believers. In Quranic language, mu'minina haqqa. And in order to do this, there are certain steps which we must take. If you read through the calls, I think Zishan shared the document, you will find that they are not what is traditionally religious. So if you attended a course in which you are meant to be given the 101 on Islam, this is not it. This is like a world apart from it. And the reason for that is I believe that this pathway is a universal pathway. It is not a culturally specific pathway to reach the truth. And for those of us who go through this pathway, we can bring peace and security into our lives. And that is actually one of the derivatives of this word iman, which is aman, which means peace and which means security. So how does this process work? The process works by first being secure in your heart. And I'll illustrate with a verse in a bit. And after that, when you have that in your heart, it manifests in your actions. And when it manifests in your actions, you will attain security in your lives. So that is the pathway which God has described for us. In fact, this system of concepts, iman, faith, conviction, etc., it appears far more than Islam even. Islam has a specific meaning which we will be exploring in the coming weeks. But this particular system is very much wider. And that's why, we couldn't even finish it in 1 week, as we saw from last week. So we'll begin with chapter 49, verses 14 to 15, which says, the Arabs say, we believe, or amanna. So that word, say, you do not believe, but rather say, we submit. And faith has not yet entered your heart. Right? And but if you obey Allah and the Messenger, He will not diminish anything of your deeds. So, in other words, to attain Iman or faith, you have to obey Allah and His Messenger. And where do you find the instructions of Allah and the Messenger? In the Quran. And that is what we're exploring today, the calls um, to those who believe by the Messenger. And this is authenticated by God Himself. So the next verse reads, the believers are only those who believe in Allah and His messengers and doubt not, and struggle with their wealth and their souls in the way of Allah. They are the truthful ones. So you can see, you can't just say you believe and leave it at that. No, you have to actually obey the instructions given by Allah, and you can't have any doubts. Obviously, I mean, if you have doubts, you have to clear it up. You can't just ignore it. And you struggle with your wealth and your souls in the way of Allah. Um, the way of Allah is another system of concepts which we can also explore. So, what is the implication of having a call? So, let's think of everyday speech, right? If I say, hey, Farouk, or if someone says, hey, Farouk, I will have that person will have my attention. And I will be expecting that person to tell me something or to tell me to do something. And um, these instructions these instructions are specifically from God, and they are specifically protected, and the messenger recites them. So you know that you don't need anyone to authenticate it for you. You have them. And the thing is, they are always in past tense form. Alladina amanu is in past tense. It's not alladina yu'minun in present tense, right? So this is in past tense in denoting a completed action, which in my understanding, it means that these people have had faith or security in the previous bit of information. I will demonstrate that further on. So what I notice is that there are specific chapters with these calls, O ye who have believed. Yeah, there are 88 of these calls. They are distributed in certain chapters, but not in other chapters. Say, for example, chapter 2 has 11 of them, chapter 3 has 7, chapter 4 has 9, chapter 5 has 16, which is huge. Why is that the case? We will explore that as well. And chapter 8/9 has 12. So even the total of 8 and 9 has less than 5. Why is that the case? So these are the interesting things which we need to explore. And in doing so, we will understand the themes of the Quran. So after chapter 8/9, there aren't any more calls until chapter 22. So what happened from chapter 10 all the way to chapter 21? I would say these are more theoretical based, theological based, philosophical based until we come to chapter 22. Chapter 22 will then become more instruction oriented. Then after that is chapter 24, which is very instruction oriented. And then we come to chapter 33. So from 25 to 32, there aren't any such calls. So I think we have a table detailing, how which chapters have these calls, and they would be very interesting for you to explore in your own time. So what is the first call made? So it's chapter 2, verse 104, and it says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed, la taqulu ra'ina, do not say shepherd us, wa kulu undurna, but rather say give us respite, wasma'u, and listen, wal kafirina walil kafirina adabun alim, and to the people who have concealed there is a painful punishment." So what is this ra'ina thing? Ra'ina, it means don't treat us like sheep, but rather give us respite. In other words, you want time, leeway to test out what you've been given. And wa'asma'u, and listen. Listen to who? Listen to the messenger, because the messenger will provide you the feedback. So that's the first thing the believers are told. Do not seek shepherding. You are not sheep. You are meant to think. I believe chapter 8, verses 20 to 24 also illustrates this, where you are told to obey the messenger, but at the same time you are told the worst of beasts are those who do not think. So even obeying the messenger requires some kind of critical thinking on your part. But why is this, O ye who have believed? Because, in my understanding, the previous passage that talks to the children of Israel, chapter 2, verses 47 to 103, it gives you the instructions on how to build that ideal community. You will see it step by step from verse 47 to verse 103. There is a step by step, 15 different phases where you will see God giving you the principles of building that society. And if you believe in those principles, God says the first thing is don't be sheep, rather experiment and listen. And I think that is a great place to place the first call to those who have been convinced. I'll leave it here for now.
Right? Anyone have any questions?
Do
So
we
we're
understand
currently
that past
covering,
tense is those of you who have come to believe?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But in the, I would say contextually, it refers to the previous stage rather than a general, going to the messenger and taking the shahada kind of thing. I believe that it assumes that you are reading the text. So that's my understanding anyway.
yeah. So we're covering all the 89 occurrences of the OU who believe, the calls, as Farouk calls it, or OU or secured. I put in the group chat, our group chat, like a good uh proper notes. It's very important that we understand these 89 things. We can't cover them all. I mean, it'll take about 10 sessions to fully cover them. Farouk's just gonna give a good overview. So yeah, Dr. Aisha, Khadija, Miss Linda, Sayed, Jean, you're using your friend's thing. What's your name, brother?
عبد الواحد.
Abdul Wahid. Oh, you were in the group chat. Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I will let Farouk continue.
Thank you very much. So as part of my preparation for this session, I also went through the length of the passages beginning with these calls. So there are one verse passages, which is rather interesting. A passage is just one verse long. Why is that the case? I believe this is because God wants us to really put ourselves there. Listen very carefully, because these are particularly important instructions. There are also passages with 2 verses, 3 verses, 4 verses, up till 44 verses long. Yeah, so chapter 3, verses 156 to 199 is the longest, 44 verses, and that is where the messenger is instructing the believers. And I think, I've read these a few times, and I do believe that they are very powerful instructions on how we can attain this state of being. But we can't go through them. I mean, just to go through one session, the last one, 44 verses, would probably take 2 sessions. So I can't go through them. But the ones with singular verses, the first one is chapter 3, verse 200. And that comes after a series of 7, it comes at the end of a series of 7 verses, including this one, where chapter 3 from verse 100 up to verse 200, it's basically a series of sections. There's 7 of them, and this is the last verse which starts and it starts another call. Why is that the case? I believe that God is summing up the particular program which he has illustrated in the previous hundred verses, and he is telling us here is what you need to do in order to undertake this. Now, what does chapter 3, verse 200 say? It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have been convinced or believed or secured, asbiru, be patient, wasabiru, and excel in patience. Apparently, the translation says, warabitu, and fortify. A ribat is a fort. Wattaqullah, and be mindful of Allah, la'allakum tuflihun, that you may be successful. Now that's very interesting. Sabr is mentioned twice in two different forms. And rabitu, this is very rare. If you look through the Quran, uh, it's something. It's not what God always tells you. But why is it mentioned here? I believe that God is telling us this is what we need in order to perform what the messenger told us in the previous 100 verses. And this being a singular call, a singular verse passage, a single verse passage, I think God wants us to seriously meditate on it. So that's chapter 3, verse 200. The next one is chapter 4, verse 135. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. They all start in the same way. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have been convinced. Kunu qawwamina bil qist. Be you establishes with justice. Wa shuhada'a lillah, as witnesses for Allah. Walau ala anfusikum, even if it's against yourselves. Aw walidain, or your parents, wal akrabain, and the close ones, and so on and so forth. So here again, God is telling you this is to listen. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, so you focus, and God tells you to establish justice even if it's against yourself. And if you read the next verse, 136, it's not, it's another call to those who believed. Why is that the case? Because this particular one, verse 135, is, in my opinion, it is of super importance. God mentions this, establishing justice as witnesses to him, at least 5 or 6 times in the Quran. Yeah, at least 5 or 6 times. And that shows that this is a central principle in attaining faith, to be just. And chapter 5 and chapter 4 and chapter 5 has emphasis on this. For chapter 5 is chapter 5 verse 8, but that's not a singular verse call. So the next single verse call is chapter 5 verse 1. What does that tell us? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed, awfu bil uqud, fulfill your covenants. And so on. It says something is allowed for you except what has been recited upon you, not violating the prohibition, etc., etc. But the point here is fulfill your covenants. So this is it. In order for us to become true believers, we need to fulfill our covenants. After that, I think I may have skipped a few, but chapter 49, verse 1 says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tuqaddimu bayna yada illah wa rasulih. Do not put yourselves between the hands of Allah and His Messenger. Wattaqullah, and be mindful of Allah. Inna Allah sami'un alim. Allah is hearing, knowing. So here you can see how important it is to obey God and the messenger. So the messenger provides us with information regarding the teachings of the faith. How does he do this? By reciting to us these calls. And as Zishan said, there are 89 of these calls. I mentioned 88 because 88 of them start a verse. The 89th one does not start a verse, it is in the middle of a verse. We can go through that as well later on. Then, in the same surah, chapter 49, it has verse 11, which is another single verse call. It says, O ye who believe, let not one people laugh at another people. Perchance they may be better than them. Nor let women laugh at women. Perchance they may be better than they. This translation is the standard translation. I'm not entirely in agreement with it. And do not find fault with your own people, nor call each other nicknames. Evil is a bad name after faith. Whoever does not turn, these are the unjust. So why does God place this in a single verse call? And if you read the next verse, it's another verse call towards the same thing. O ye who believe, avoid most of suspicion. Suspicion in some cases is a sin. Do not spy, do not backbite. So two single verse calls made one after the other about personal behavior. So this should tell you how important personal behaviors are. Another important one is chapter 61, verse 14, which says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kunu ansarullah, be you helpers of Allah. And this is very interesting because the word ansar is used in chapter 9, verse 100, where it says that Allah is pleased with them and they are with Him. The Ansar and the Muhajirin, the immigrants. Allah is pleased with them and they are with Him. So here Allah is telling you, Kunu Ansar Allah, be you helpers of Allah. Kama qala Isa ibn Maryam, as Isa, the son of Maryam, said, Lil Hawariyin, to the disciples, Man Ansari ilallah. Who will be my helpers towards Allah? قال الحواريون, the disciples said, نحن أنصار الله, we are the helpers of Allah. So notice, Isa says, who are my helpers towards Allah? But they say, we are helpers of Allah. In other words, there's no distance anymore. They are there. They are there doing the job. فآمنت طائفة من بني إسرائيل. So believed a section of the children of Israel, وَكَفَرَتْ طَائِفَةٌ, and a party of them disbelieve. فَأَيَّدْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, we strengthened those who have believed, عَلَىٰ عَدُوِّهِمْ, against their enemy, فَأَصْحَابُ ظَاهِرِينَ, and they became uppermost. So this is Allah's promise. In a single verse, Allah is telling you what to do in order to achieve the objective system of peace and justice. You have to help Allah. And if you look at chapter 47, verse 7, it says, In tansarallaha yansurkum. If you help Allah, He will help you. وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُمْ, and strengthen your feet firmly. So, this is a kind of a two-way thing. When you have the believers, they are helping Allah and Allah is helping them. So it's almost like a process, a reciprocal process going on. So now we come to the last two occurrences of this call. And the last two occurrences also happen to be singular verse calls. The first one says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed, Qu anfusakum, preserve yourselves, wa ahlikum, and your families, from a fire whose fuel is men and stones. Over it are angels stern and strong. They do not disobey Allah in what He commands them and do as they are commanded. So the second last thing Allah tells us is to preserve ourselves. Why does ourselves come before our families? Because before you save anyone, you have to save yourself in order to make yourself ready to save anyone else. That's why if you look at chapter 2, verse 44, it says, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسِ بِالْبِرَّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do you command people with righteousness when you forget yourselves? وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ, and you recite the book. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you not think? You see, so there is an order of things. And the first thing to do is to save or preserve yourselves if you have believed in the message. And the final call is, O ye who believe, turn to Allah with a sincere turning. Now, this is a very common phrase, very common. It's a common phrase in Islamic parlance, tawbatan nasuha. Tawbah nasuha is for Sunnis, it's a tawbah or a return or repentance which is accepted by Allah. So Allah says here, maybe your Lord will remove from you your evil and cause you to enter paradise under which rivers flow on the day which Allah will not abase the Prophet and those who believe with him. Their light shall run on before them and on their right hands. They will say, our Lord, make perfect for us our light and grant us protection. Surely you have power over all things. And that's it. Chapter 66, verse 8 is the last call. There are no more calls to those who believe after that. So that kind of tells you what verse chapter 67, coming after 66, 67 to 114, these chapters have a particular tone. They are not overtly instructive as some of the chapters before them. I could I could stop here for the discussion. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Want to add anything? I know it's a lot, y'all. That's
Yeah,
why.
I think we need to realize how much this is, because there's a whole lot of context, especially in the verses in chapter 3 and the verse before. So please, everyone realize this is a very basic discussion that does not give us a full grasp, not that we ever, any of us are capable of a full grasp because we're limited in our observation, but each and every single one of these verses is happening within the context of its chapter, but also the context of the entire book. So I caution us not to think we've come to a full understanding of this, right?
Assalamu alaikum. My observation, what I've seen is these chapters which are, the verses which start with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. It's all about Medina surahs. But the word amanu, it is present in both Meccan surahs and Medina surah. Now it means because Medina, it was more about laws and legislations, and those laws can be only executed by those who believe. This is what Allah was addressing: believers, believers, believers. This word was my observation, because Iman has some components. You have heart, you have pronunciations going together with your actions. This is the contribution which I wanted to make it.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Abdul Wahid. I understand where you're coming from there. Thank you.
Thank
How
you.
much of these passages has your understanding changed as you've read them over and over again over the years?
Walid, even today, sorry, even for today's session, when I arranged them according to length, I was mind blown. That's after studying them a few times. So I mean, I foresee my entire life I'll still have insights, when I'm about to die, I guess. I think, I don't know.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Well, I came late.
Salam.
Yeah, I came late, but it looks like I came to a very good discussion, or maybe good ayat. I loved it. Like I came when you were mentioning the ayat 3-200, and I saw like the connection between the ayat 3-200, and then the next ayat in Surah An-Nisa. Is Surah An-Nisa 4? 135? Is this what you were?
Yeah, chapter 4, verse 1. Yeah, An-Nisa 135. Yes.
Yeah. It's beautiful, but I didn't understand like what the difference like between the ayat. Yeah, I saw the similarity between al 5-8, but you said they were different. What was the difference between them?
Could you open 5.8 for me? I'll read out 4.135. You can check it with 5.8 because I can't check both at the same time. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Okay, so they both begin with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed. So the first sentence in chapter 4, verse 135 is Kunu qawwamina bil qist. Be you establishers of justice. So what's the 5.8?
كونوا قوامين لله.
Right. Okay, and then that means be you establishes with Allah. Okay, the next phrase is shuhada lillah, as witnesses for Allah. Yours, please.
شهداء لله بالقسط. Oh,
Bill.
okay. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم.
Oh yes, stop there, stop there. So yours is witnesses with justice. So mine is be you witnesses with justice. Yours is be you witnesses with Allah for justice. So you see how it's interchangeable. You see, so witnessing for Allah and witnessing and establishing justice, they are inextricable. If you want to be a shahid, a witness, you can't just say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, say give the shahada. You actually have to establish justice. And this chapter 4 verse 135 and chapter 5 verse 8 kind of proves it.
Oh, this is so beautiful. Thank you.
It's very beautiful. Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, I will point out that this also means like equity and making sure people get their fair share. It gives us an idea of what justice, because there are a number of words that are translated as justice, but qist actually also has to do with equity and equitableness. When we see it used in the Quran. So, but yeah, the two are linked. The witnessing lillah and the qist are tightly connected, but qist also has some very deep meanings that may not be completely articulated by the English word justice. But that's another topic that deserves its own deep dive, right?
I would add to what Dr. Musa said there. The witnessing concept is inextricable. And if you look at chapter 2, verse 143, it says, وَكَذَلِكَ, and like that, جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you a middle ummah. This is a very famous phrase in Islamic parlance, but it's not used in the same way, in my opinion. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. You are made a middle ummah that you may be witnesses upon mankind. So where do you find this word shuhada? Where do you find that? In the verses which Hanan and I quoted. Shuhada ala nas wa yakuna rasul alaykum shahida, and the messenger is witness upon you.
And the upon there is actually against, right? Also has the meaning of against, right?
Good point. Yes, good point.
So we are witness that if we're doing the right thing, our behavior becomes a witness against or evidence against people who aren't. And that's why the other verse about remind people to do the right thing, well, and forget yourselves.
Yeah.
Not only are you forgetting yourself, you're forgetting to do the right thing yourself, right? So there's layers here as well. And the Rasul is the witness against us, right? So if we are saying one thing and doing another, the Rasul is the witness against us that proves that we're not doing, what we say we're doing. There are layers here that are very, subhanallah, really deep layers here.
Linda, if are we sort of kind of like explaining it well, or
Well, I came in late, so I'm afraid I missed your introduction.
oh,
Fine.
Yeah, I had some technical difficulties, and
right,
I
right,
was
right.
able to. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, basically, what I said was that this is like a pathway as opposed to a religious confession. It's a system of actions that result in you attaining a certain level of faith and security. That's it. But that's what it is in a sentence. Yeah. Yeah.
And getting back to the causative verb, amana is a causative verb. It's not something that necessarily happens to you. It's something you do in the world. It's something you bring about in the world. And mu'min and Muslim are active participles. So we can't get away from causative verbs and active participles of causative verbs. It's very important.
I had a question, Brother Farouk. This was at the very beginning of your lecture. You said that
Yes,
there are
Khadija.
6 pillars of Iman. Is that like in a traditionalist sense?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes.
And you only found 5 pillars of Iman in the Quran.
I wouldn't call them pillars, but
You
they're
would not
5
call them
elements. No, I wouldn't call them
elements.
pillars. Yeah,
Articles of
elements.
faith, maybe.
Articles, yes, good. Yes, nice.
Okay. Do you remember them off the top of your head?
Well, Allah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
angels, the book, the kutub,
You should
the
remember
writs,
them.
the messengers, and the last day.
Books, messengers. Okay. All right, thank you.
Now that's very interesting that you asked that. If you compared chapter 2, verse 177, which has a list of articles, as Linda said, and chapter 2, verse 285, it also has a list, but a few elements there differ. For example, in 2177, it says prophets. In 2285, it says messengers. In 2177, it says the book, but in 2285, it says writs or books. You see? So
maybe
I think
different audiences?
could be, yeah, could be. And I don't quite know the differences between prophets and messengers at the moment. I do need to explore that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And my other question would be, I myself have to go through the verses on a rhetorical level to see how they fit me and if I work with them and whatnot.
Good, good. Yeah.
But I have been interested, and I have yet to do this also. I was very interested in looking up the verses for Ya ayyuhal insan, oh humans, which I think is
Nice.
like the very basic, right, of
Yeah.
humanity. So I could apply these to my children as well, right? The basic primitive mind, perhaps even.
Yeah.
And then I would assume that Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu is the highest, right? So al-insan and amanu is perhaps the highest.
Perhaps I could offer another alternative for the highest. If you
Yeah.
look at chapter 89, verse 27, it says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsil mutma'inna, O you, O soul at peace. In my opinion, that seems to be the highest.
Yeah. But that's more, I feel like that shows up more as a when you are content, you have lived a life serving God. You've spent more years committed to God than not, per se, and then
Yeah.
you finally have that sense on your deathbed. That's what I think.
Okay. Okay.
I
Well,
don't
I can
know.
see
I
why you
can't
would think
see,
that.
yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't
can see
see
why
how
you would
I
think.
would have that sense at 35 years old. I feel
Yeah.
like that is the end of life, like a reward.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
fadkhuli fi ibadi. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. I
I
get it.
think Ya
I get it.
ayyuhan nas applies to everybody, whether or not they consider themselves somebody who
A
has a
believer.
conviction or a faith.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The because especially, and I've been looking at this recently, the concept of nas, because it's the same root in Aramaic, Enosh, and Jesus called himself Bar Enosh, right? Son of human being, son of humanity,
Oh.
right? Jesus never calls himself son of God. I had this discussion with a Christian about what the Qur'an says about Jesus and what Jesus says about himself in the Gospels as we have them today. And even though the Gospels are in Greek primarily, the word son, the phrase son of man is always in the Aramaic, which was Jesus' native tongue. And so this connection of humanity, because in Hebrew they talk about humanity as Bani Adam, right, using Adam as kind of the physical, but this idea of Nes and Enosh in Aramaic is fascinating to me. So I think based on that, I see Nas as just all human beings, right?
Well,
Referring to human beings in general.
in Surah Al-Inshiqaq, I believe, towards the very beginning of the verse of the surah, it talks about those who are basically going to heaven receiving their book of records with their right hand. Okay, and then it talks about those that are not going to heaven receiving their book of records from behind their backs. But God is talking to Ya ayyuhal insan, right? So that means that is going to be applied to every single person that ever exists.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of their belief system, how old they were, whether the
Exactly.
first or the last.
Exactly. So, and if we think about Surah 42:13, where it says, "Shara lakum min deen," the same deen as Noah, right? And this is, the Jews have this idea of the Noahide laws, like the religion God gave to Noah from a Jewish perspective. Anybody who follows Noahide laws is okay in a Jew, because the Jews got the Torah. They separate that, they have the chosen people idea, but they also have this idea of Noahide laws, and the idea
So,
that
so the Jews are following Noah's creed?
no, the Jews believe that everybody who's not Jewish who believes in one God should be following the Noahide laws.
Oh, is that Noah's creed like we have Abraham's creed?
Well, the Quran says this, it's the same deen as Noah. Like I said, chapter 42, ayah 13, that has the same deen given to Noah, and it mentions all of the prophets, right? And then says, don't be divided in it. And this is from a Muslim perspective, from a traditional Muslim perspective, this is al-Islam writ large, right? Every prophet and every messenger's people were Muslim, right? And then each of them follows a different sunnah. This is the traditional Muslim perspective. But the idea that there is one deen and multiple sharias is the traditional Muslim perspective on Islam versus Sharia. Each group got its own Sharia. So, but the idea that Noah is basic to it is in Judaism and traditional Islamic view. But and so I see that as being, when God says all people are going to be judged on this basic idea, like you said. And Jesus in the Gospels has a similar thing about those on the right hand and those on the left hand at the judgment, which I was looking at, because those on the right hand are the people who feed the poor and take care of the sick and all of that. And those on the left hand who are going to go to hell don't do those things. And I'm thinking about that because I'm calling Mike Johnson's office on Monday to remind him that as a follower of Jesus, that he needs to think about the day of judgment as they're starving Americans who need SNAP benefits, right?
Yeah.
But these ideas apply to all of humanity, because the idea that all human beings are, because everything in creation submits to God willingly or unwillingly. Everything is Muslim, willing or unwilling. Right?
Yeah. So I think I don't know if it was a question or a statement, perhaps. And then we also discussed previously that the different groups of people are different forms of enlightenment, right? They're all graduating higher and higher. So we have Bani Adam, then Bani Israel, then I don't remember anymore who comes after. So if the mu'minun would be, let's just say the second to last, right? Al-nafs al-mutma'inna is where we really want to be. Would that mean that, yeah.
Khadija, I'm not sure we can arrange it in a hierarchical way like that.
Okay.
Some of these may actually be coincidental. Say, for example, Bani Adam
Hmm.
and Bani Israel. So if you read chapter 5, verse 32, it says, because of that, we wrote upon Bani Israel, if you killed a single person, a single nafs, and so on and so forth, it's like you killed the entire humanity. So if you think about it, in the Quran it says, لا تزر لا تزر وزيرة وزر أخرى. No bearer shall bear the burden of another. So why is God writing on different people something which two children of Adam did?
Yeah.
It's, to me, it's because they are the same people. Hence,
Me too.
this is it's coincidental. It's not something hierarchical.
Yeah, I agree. I really resist this idea of hierarchy because that gets into sectarianism, and then people can, look down on each other because you're a lower group than me, or I look up and say somebody's a higher group than me. They may be coincidental. They may even be overlapping. Allahu alam. My advice is always look at the examples that God gives in the Quran and shoot for the group that you want to be in, right?
Yeah.
If Allah says those in the group you want to be in do this and say this, then try to find the opportunities to behave and think and speak like the people you want to be part of. Likewise, when you see something negative, try not to be in that group. If God says people that are going to get this bad consequence do and say this, and you see yourself doing and saying that, think, okay, let me, because the Quran, in my opinion, is a guide for each one of us individually. I mean, it's a guide for humanity, but each one of us individually God is talking to each and every one of us each and every time we pick up the book, right? And we talked about this one time, Farouk. I don't remember exactly how you put it, but the Quran being revealed to you, say this, when we were talking about 619, you put it very well. I don't remember exactly what you said, but I remember you put it well, that when you open the Quran and read that, Allah is giving you the wahi at the moment, or at least giving you the opportunity to have the wahi at the moment.
I believe that.
So, because God is Rahman and Rahim and gives us every chance, right?
Yeah, mashallah.
I just want to add some points regarding these verses of which start with Ya Ayyuha. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, there are around 6-7 categories of these verses. Example, those verses which address Ya Ayyuhan Nas. This is for all mankind, whether they're believers or not believers. Such verses usually they call mankind to reflect. They call mankind towards obedience, maybe to give certain awareness. Call can be towards worship, or maybe it can be awareness to remind them about their responsibility, to encourage certain behavior. And the verses of Ya Ayyuhal Insan is for individual human. Nas, all mankind. And Amanu for those who have believed. And in addition to that, you have those verses which talks to even kafirun, yeah? Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun, those who have disbelieved. So, and others, maybe it talks about those people who have been given book, etc. So these are the categories of verses that starts with Ya ayyuhal ladina, then it continues different categories. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Wahid. Yes, indeed. There are different categories of people. Good point.
Yeah. Abdul Wahid, I wish you would get like. I get so confused whenever I see that image of your friend.
I'll
Are you
open my
using
own
a
account
device
soon.
or
Yeah.
something? Like you don't have it on your phone?
Yeah, this on my computer on my phone has some issues. That's why the moment I'm
Ah.
using.
Okay, yeah. So sorry, Farouk. Let's continue. My apologies.
Yes, indeed. So now we look at the longest passages regarding this call. So they are in chapter 4, verses 94 to 134. Now, this is a very interesting passage because it is before the single verse passage which I quoted, verse 135. So, what is being told in this passage from 494 to 134? So, in my opinion, obviously I can't go through all the verses now. We don't have time, but it says to travel through the earth, to build relations, to establish justice, and that's one ayah which I think we do need to look at here. If you look at verse 105, it doesn't have the call, but it's within the call. It says, "Inna anzalna ilayka al-kitab bil-haq." Verily, we descended to you the book with truth. "Litahkuma bainan nas," that you may judge between people. You see, it's always about people. It's never just a single religious society. That's not how the Quran operates. Bima arak Allah, based on what Allah has shown you. وَلَا تَكُنْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا, and do not be an advocate on behalf of the treacherous. So here we can see that within these calls, God is telling us to establish a system of peace and justice. In fact, in the previous verses, God is telling us about people we don't know, build relations with them, and we should continue to nurture these relationships. And then, once we come to the end of this passage, it talks about, in my opinion, domestic relationships, where even when the wife has issue with the husband's rebellion, she can take it to a higher level, and vice versa as well. And after that, God says, establish justice. So I would like to think that these calls, all 88 of them, they are dealing with the formation of an ideal society. And the more I read this and the more I look at the world, the more I think, oh my gosh, if only we knew these principles on a social political level, and we would just simply eradicate all negativity from the people. I mean, look at economic justice, as Dr. Musa pointed out. Al-Qist deals with distribution. So when you establish with Al-Qist, what are you doing? You are redistributing wealth. And you redistribute wealth in such a way no one is wanting for anything. Now, I read, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but it did strike me as rather shocking that the CEO of a company, a rather very famous company, he is apt to make 10,000 times more per month than his lowest employee. Now, I was thinking to myself, 10,000 times. I understand if you made 100 times more, even 1,000 times more would be unthinkable, but 10,000 times? There is seriously something wrong with that system. And this is what God is pointing to us so that we can look at society and look at ourselves. Unfortunately, this particular system has been rather overlooked by the traditional Muslim community. This is not something which they focus on in their religious life. Hence, it's just not a thing for them. They for them, iman, faith, is simply the 6 pillars, and if they say we believe in it, therefore they're saved. But actually, no. God provides you a plan on how to create that safe, secure environment. That's a natural outgrowth of iman, of conviction. Iman or conviction is in the heart, and actions, as we've seen from chapter 49, verses 14 to 15, following Allah and the Messenger, this takes you to that stage where you have security. And I will end with this last verse. I did not include it in the initial notes because I was thinking to myself, this is not in the middle this is not at the beginning of a verse. So why should I include this, right? But now I realize why it's not at the beginning. So we're looking at chapter 33, verse 56. And it says, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Verily, Allah and His malaika, usually translated as angels, they pour support upon the Prophet. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed. So it's not in the beginning of the verse, it's in the middle of a verse. O ye who have believed, sallu alayhi, pour support upon him, wa sallimu taslima. Usual translation is salute him with a becoming salutation. I don't believe this. I believe it's to make his system whole in a meticulous way. Salim is to be whole. So I believe that they are there to strengthen the Prophet's system, to ensure that his system does not break down, and so on and so forth. And that's why it's in the middle, because Allah is reminding us first that God is behind this. And if we are convinced, we should also be behind this system of peace and justice. So that is where I would end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Farouk. I like how you I like the Sallu alayh as a support. I like that. Although I can't
Thank
say
you.
I necessarily agree, but I like it. Um, I had a question, or not so much a question, but I wanted to ask. This week, I actually went through Surah An-Nisa, verse 29. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. O you who believe, do not devour your property amongst yourselves falsely. إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم, except that is to be trading by your mutual consent. And then it says in Arabic, ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم. In Arabic it says, and do not kill yourselves. إن الله كان بكم رحيما. Surely Allah is merciful to you. My cousin brought this up and she asked me what I thought about do not kill yourselves. And I ended up looking at the verses that came before it. Because why would a mu'min kill himself anyway? Like, I have an idea of what a mu'min is. I couldn't imagine a mu'min killing themselves. But then I noticed that the verses that came before it had to do a lot with kind of the economy and
May I
finance.
comment on that a little bit,
Yes.
Khadija? Yeah. Okay. So in my opinion, this phrase, "Wala taqtulu anfusakum," and do not kill yourselves. People usually quote that and say, "See, this prevents suicide bombing." You see, they rip out half a verse. I don't find that genuine, really. To me, this "don't kill your selves" is related to trading. Now, when I worked for someone else, this person was not in this party or company. They were not interested in the development of my soul. So what God is telling us is we should work with people who have the same life philosophy by mutual consent, so that we can develop our souls.
Okay.
So that's the opposite of qatalun nafs, the neutralization of the self.
Right.
Yeah.
I was when I was looking at it, I was thinking of who are the people that usually kill themselves when it comes to money. I've never heard of a poor person killing themselves. Poor people tend to survive and adapt and get through it and dig through trash cans even. But I have seen lawyers of firms jumping off buildings because they got caught in a bad case. I have seen billionaires killing themselves because they don't want to, they're avoiding justice, right? Yes, Dr. Aisha.
Yeah, there's another thing. I like what you just said, but I was also thinking poor people kill themselves to make money for other people because they
Ooh,
may have to work long hours,
yeah.
right? And I was thinking about this because in the United States, they say if someone over 50 loses their job, they're not likely to find another one because people want to hire younger people. So you could have had a really good job and be older and lose it. And you may then have to go to work on the factory floor at Amazon, right? Which I hear is brutal. I've never been on an Amazon factory floor, but I've heard terrible things about the work. But so people work in conditions that kill them just to be able to support their families. And the people at the top are taking that money away. And then, as you say, something happens, a scandal happens, and they go out the window because they would rather die than be held accountable. So again, these ayat of Allah in the Quran can be understood in all of these ways.
Yeah, our reality.
And make sense in reality. Because the Quran is a book for reality. And the idea that traditional Muslims think of Iman as, personal and private, and that's not just Muslims. That's, I think, maybe rooted in the 19th century, but certainly developed into the 20th and 21st centuries, that faith is a private matter and, and it doesn't impact. And I agree, you don't force your religion on other people, but the outcome of this the contemporary capitalist mentality permeates the entire world, the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world. And so people of conviction, I like that translation of this, I'm going to start using it that way. People of conviction for the sake of God, whether they consider themselves Muslim or Jewish or Christian or whatever, who want to help humanity, that conviction that it's a social movement is what people are fighting against in the capitalist system, the people at the top. And Zoran Mamdani, whether he's Shia or Sunni or whatever, I don't care. I like the fact that he's willing to work with any group who wants to do these good things, right? Because it's a completely different system that God is offering us. But the Quran isn't the only scripture that offers it that's being ignored. Right? But it is being ignored. But I'm going to have to bounce. But Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I've really enjoyed it as usual.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, Dr. Musa.
I want to add a point there in this verse. لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. Then comes ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم. It's kind of like a cause and effect connection that Allah talks about action. If you are unjust in consuming other people's wealth by stealing or fraud, exploitation, whatever method, so the consequence will be societal harm or personal harm. Societal harm means the person whom you are eating, you are stealing, maybe can kill you. You can, your stealing can be the cause of your death. So it's just like a cause and effect. So Allah is giving us a divine guidance. Prevent yourself from this. So
Yeah, and I
this is
think
all.
I would like to take that one step further even, because God ends the verse with, and God is Rahima, right? He is merciful. So in a way, which I did not say this before, but when we were looking at the verses last week, I was kind of let down. I was kind of disappointed that these were the commands for the mu'minun. Don't backbite. Don't misuse other people's money. Like, it just felt like these were more like beginning level verses, as I said incorrectly before, mu'minun are the highest, right? So perhaps they are not the highest because they still have a lot of faults that they haven't let go of, or that they're still carrying. But it says that the last of the verse says, Inna Allahu rahima. So God is merciful. So in a way, if you don't kill yourself, okay, so let's say you have been eating people's money unjustly, and you bring yourself to justice, right? You don't coward, you don't run away, you don't kill yourself, you stand up to justice, and you serve your time, you serve your punishment. And in a way, because this is my understanding, is even if I made a mistake and I go to try to correct that mistake, I still have to suffer the consequences. That's part of the justice system. I can't say, oh, I made this mistake, but I don't want to be punished for it, right? Like, I have to stand up to my punishment. So when God says at the end, in Allahu Rahima, it just the way that it's falling together, it sounds like if we confess, and if we try to right our wrong, and even though we are punished for it on this earth, God will forgive us in the afterlife because we served our punishment here. Is that correct for me to think that way?
Yeah, it is correct.
I understand it. If I stick my hand in a meat grinder, I may heal, but the hand's not coming back.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to suffer with that consequence the rest of my life here.
Okay.
And also, Khadija, I'm not sure if you can see the people of conviction, the mu'mineen, as one single level, because there are certain contexts in which I see that the mu'mineen are of a higher level than those of another context. So let's say, for example, it says "Ulaika humus sadiqun," they are the truthful ones. Why isn't this mentioned in other contexts? Only in 2177 and
Yeah.
49:15.
Because if
So
you're eating the money of people, you're not sadiq.
yeah. Well, indeed, you have to explore these levels, and see what exactly level you're at, so to speak, right? But yeah, it is rather complex. Thank you for bringing this to my attention there, Khadija. That's good.
I think the level of amanu can take you to higher level because that's the basic level. For your nas, then you believe. After you believe, then you put into action, then you become pious, God conscious, muttaqun. Once you become God conscious, then you become sabirun. Once you become sabirun, those who have, because patience now even have 7 pillars, which is not our discussion today. Once you become sabirun, then you become mujahidun. And finally, you become closer to Allah, al-muqarrabun. Those who are very close to Allah. But the foundation is you have to move from your animalistic behavior to humanity and then believe, and finally you get closer to Allah. And you will be considering those level of nafs. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي.
That's chapter 89, verses 27 to 30, for whoever wants to look it up.
89?
89, 27 to 30.
I might have missed something, guys. So why not al-mu'minun in the higher level? Because I noticed that most of the ayat in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned al-mu'minun, he mentioned also like type of muflihun, faizun, like success or winners. So but like when he mentioned, like, for example, Muslimin or Muslimun, he maybe mentioned also the description of those people. So I want to know, like, if that's okay, like why we wouldn't say, like Khadija said, mu'minun in the first level, like where we are maybe go and try to achieve being mu'minin?
For me, these are not like linear levels. They are interactive levels. So if you look at chapter 43, verse 69, so sorry, I can't remember if the verse is correct. Actually, no, a better verse is chapter 10, verse 84. So it says, this is Musa speaking to his people. Waqala Musa, Musa said, Ya qawmi, O my people, in kuntum amantum billah. If you believe in Allah, فَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلُوا. Upon him you rely on. In kuntum muslimin, if you are Muslimin. So Iman comes first, believe in Allah. And then you do tawakkal if you are Muslimin. So Muslimin there is an action-based thing, and Iman there is something which is internal. Whereas in the 49:14, it's not. It's actually coming to peace first and then going Iman. So it's not like Islam before Iman or Iman before Islam. They are both they are feeding off each other, in my opinion.
I have another question. In Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:111, which is the scene of the Last Supper, Jesus's disciples say, "Amanna billah," we believe in God, and we witness that we are of the submitters. I think I brought this up in the group before. The more I read about Jesus's disciples, the more I want to strive to be like them. It's quite fascinating.
Nice.
And I'm wondering now, why did they refer to themselves as submitters instead of mu'minun? And would they, like, who are the mu'minun in the Quran, like story-wise, like characters?
Khadija, these guys, the Hawariyin, the disciples of Jesus, they are given the in kuntum mu'minin, if you are indeed mu'minin, twice. Chapter 3, verse 49, and chapter 5, verse, is it 111? I think that's the verse you quoted.
And they said, well, yeah, because I think I'm quoting only half of the verse.
Yeah, exactly.
I only have half the verse memorized. Because I think the first half says to declare that like they're asked, God is yes. This is another question from the Wahi class that we had. The 5:111, which I don't have out right now, it says God says, or God said. I want to know if was God speaking to the disciples through Jesus?
I don't know that. It doesn't say that there. It says
just says God says.
It says وَإِذْ أَوْحَيْتُ إِلَى هَوَارِيُّونَ. And when I inspired to the Hawariyin.
So direct maybe.
Yeah, I inspired to the Hawariyin, an aminu bi, that you believe in me, wa bi rasuli, and my messenger.
Yeah.
Qalu amanna. Say we believe, and wa ashhad bi annana muslimun.
Yes.
So bear witness that we are Muslimun. But the triple I there kind of tells you their level, doesn't it? So,
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Even though they refer to themselves as Muslims.
Yes. But in the next ayah, it says, in kuntum mu'minin, if you are believers.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Actually, sorry guys. Look at, how about, I think for Hujurat, I don't know if it's 49 or 48.
49.
49, 14.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. So, and then the following ayah, إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. So in this two first verses, it looks like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was speaking to Al-A'rab, he made the difference between being Muslim and being Mu'min, right?
Yeah.
I
So
don't know about that. I
that-
think that's an action-based thing rather than a person-based thing. Because
I
they say
think
yeah, but
amanna, they didn't say nahnu mu'minun. They say amanna. So that's an action.
I think
yeah, but
this is the way how I understand it. First, you submit. Submission can be outward submission, and you can show some actions. But once this is why Allah said, don't say that you have believed. Say that you have just submitted. When you believe, when the faith now move from your action into your heart and mind. Once this enter into your into your heart and mind, then you turn into successful people where the faith is included in and the deed, and you become God conscious, muttaqun, right? And finally, then you become the one who is achieving the highest spiritual excellence, very close to Allah, muqarrabun. So entry point is just submission. Then you make your inner conviction, then deeds and consciousness, and then to achieve the highest spiritual excellence, and that is closeness to Allah. This is how I understand.
Nice,
I
bro.
was understanding the same. Abdul Wahid or Sayyid, is this the same person or different?
Yeah, Abdul Wahid,
Okay.
Abdul Wahid.
Thank you, brother. Well, yeah, I could see the difference in the two ayat because it doesn't because Allah specifically, you know, He defined how to be mu'min, and I mean actions that it's mentioned in this ayah, specifically the Al-Hujurat 15. It looks like not everybody can do it except if you are real believer. Yeah, thank you so much. That's good.
Any other thoughts? Or are we coming to the close of this particular class?
If I might say something, only I like the way I liked the emphasis on the idea that justice is a personal thing. It's not something that you wait to be done for you. You are personally responsible for the implementation of justice. So it's the opposite of the mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly small and fine. In other words, we should wait until the gods' mills have ground. No, it is it's for us to implement this on a personal and an individual level.
Oh,
Catherine?
yes, indeed. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just that was my impression. But yes, please continue.
Well, Linda, you know, I see it as a kind of a two-way thing. You know, you're right; it is personal, but in establishing justice, we are walking in the path of God and developing our souls to be in that path. That's why God says in chapter 4, verse 135, even against your souls, you must establish justice. So let's say your personal interest lies in you giving good judgment to one person, but actually you know it's the other person who deserves it. So you go against yourself and establish justice. You know, and God says, when you judge between the people, judge equitably. Chapter 4, verse 58. You know, I mean, it can't get more beautiful than this, in my opinion.
There is one place where Allah gets harsh with us in Asaf, verses 2 and 3. Most hateful in the sight of Allah that you say what you do not do. We can preach all we want. What are we doing?
That's beautiful, bro. Yes. Gosh. It's really visceral, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
And it's the antithesis of the old "don't rock the boat." Sometimes
Exactly.
we have to rock the boat, even if it
Exactly.
means that it will hurt. We will get hurt too.
Gosh.
When everybody else can't see that the boat is floating towards a waterfall, it's time to start rocking it.
Hmm.
Brother Farouk, you want to set us up for next week's class?
I have to actually discuss that with Zishan first.
Okay.
I can't do it. I mean, he is the organizer, right? So I can. But it will be something either on hypocrisy or disbelief or God loving a particular set of people and not loving a set of people. So we'll explore verses regarding those things, you know. So
Mhm.
I'll let you guys know in the group. Linda, you're in the group now, you know, just to let you know.
Okay, I will terminate the recording and we can have further discussion, but I'll close the class down. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.